Everybody, it's Ian. How's it going? Just want to talk to you about where I'm at with Discogs these days. Just super quick context. I've said this a million times. Collected records in the mid-90s to mid-aughts in my teens and 20s. Did not collect records then in my 30s, and then in 2017 when I was 40, got back into collecting records. And that was when I first kind of got into Discogs. I had seen it like in search results or whatever, but I didn't really know anything about it. And then I was looking for a specific pressing, which was this Master Reality, this Rhino vinyl one. LPs cut from the original analog masters. That's my kind of thing, and I wanted this specific one. And you know, on other websites, it's just hard to tell. Is this exact one or not? Especially with Rhino, they tend to reuse their UPC codes, so you can't tell which pressing it is. So anyway, I got this on Discogs and was just happy about that. But then it probably wasn't until 2018 or so that I really started to use it in earnest. I live in the middle of nowhere. There's no record stores. So for getting used records, it seemed like my only option. So started using Discogs for that. And it didn't take too terribly long to have a bad experience. This guy, S. Proper, ordered a couple of Led Zeppelin records, Led Zeppelin 3 and Houses of the Holy, not that it matters. Advertised them both as VG+. He said they were VG Plus close to near mint in the comments, and they were not that. They were just noisy, scratched up garbage. So got in touch with them and said I wanted a refund. He's like, sure, send them back in at your expense. And quotes the part of his seller terms saying that buyer pays return shipping. And I just was in disbelief at that. And I still kind of am, that people think they can just say that, and that's how things should just work. That like you can either be a total fuck up as a seller or be a lying sack of shit as a seller, and the buyer's on the hook for return shipping if that's what they want. And that's just totally unacceptable to me, that you as a buyer are expected to take on that kind of risk. I'm sorry, you shouldn't have to pay $5 or whatever to send back records that you fucked up on or lied about. So that whole thing is just super common, I learned. And that also just in general that there are no consequences for bad actors really besides negative feedback. So, you know, bad grading, you know, here's not often you get visual examples of this, but look, this was listed as mint. All right. It's a cutout, a hole punch, listed as mint, you know, no mention of this. Just insanity, you know, it's just, it's either laziness or dishonesty. And at this point, I don't really care which one it is. It feels more like dishonesty to me. Just kind of done with giving these people the benefit of the doubt because it's just become so common. And how can you trust anybody on there anymore? So, you know, bad grading that almost always is in favor of the seller. Can you believe it? Oh, I got it wrong. In my favor, it turns out. So, bad grading, wrong pressings, can't tell you how many times that's happened. And, you know, it's, on the one hand, I get where it can seem overwhelming, especially with like 70s stuff that, you know, back then there were so many pressing plants and stuff was getting reissued annually. There's making it so that there's just dozens and dozens and dozens of pressings of just one album, you know. But it's actually not all that hard. You just search for the runout matrix information and you usually can narrow it down pretty quickly. You just got to be willing to take the time to do that. And sellers are lazy as fuck. It's just so common for that to be the case. If you're one of the good ones, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm one of the good ones. I've got a perfect rating on Discogs, and I've gotten to the point where I don't want to sell on Discogs anymore because I just don't want to be associated with that dumpster fire. So bad actors meaning bad grading, wrong pressings, and then visual grading only related to the bad grading thing. Do not buy from someone who tells you that they are only visually grading. That's not going to cut it. If you get a good one from them, it's pure luck. Visual grading is not good enough. I can't tell you how many records I've gotten that look just fine, and then you play them and they're noisy, pops, clicks, the whole nine. You know, visual grading is the best you can do in a lot of situations, like a record show or whatever. It's something. It's better than nothing. But in this situation, they need to be listened to. You know, when there's return shipping involved, you got to listen to them. And so there's even someone who calls themselves visual grade only or something close to that on Discogs. I would not buy from that motherfucker in a million goddamn years. Yeah, no consequences except for negative feedback. I did one time go the PayPal route, and I did get my money back. I bought 4 records from a guy in Norway. It was this guy, DJ Groovy Dog, D-A-W-G, and sold me 4 records, all of them listed as VG Plus or near mint. 3 of the 4 were just fucking garbage, noisy garbage that looked beautiful, shiny as hell. Made me wonder if he was like putting something on them to make them shinier than they otherwise would have been. The guy thinks that he can clean them and that cleaning solves all your problems. It does not. You know, a record that is physically damaged, doesn't matter how much you clean it, it's still going to be noisy. And, you know, did the feedback thing back and forth. Guy called me a total scammer. You know, so like someone can just like completely impugn your character in public like that. There's nothing you can do about it, you know? And you know, I didn't enjoy going through that PayPal process, even though I wanted it in the end. It's stressful, it's unpleasant. The guy was totally a total condescending dick. You can't, PayPal asks for evidence. There fortunately was visual evidence. All you can write is like your testimonial and then pictures. You can't send in like audio clips of the problematic records. Thankfully, there was something visual to send in. In other words, like that's not always going to necessarily work, I fear. And I wouldn't want to have to do that every time. And it's so unpleasant. I just don't want that aggravation anymore. It's like, I don't want that in my life anymore. It makes life worse. Even if you do win in the end, did you really win? You know, so anyway, no consequences for bad actors. Next thing I got written down here, app is unusable. Many people have brought this up. I'll just say real quick, you can't search in the cart, which for me is important. I like to put a lot of things in my cart and then compare the situations to you know, because you're trying to combine shipping and whatnot. So, you know, you can do that on the browser, but on the app, which is what we're talking about here, you can't search. You navigate away from the cart and navigate back in, put you back at the beginning, and then it takes you forever to scroll and find where you were before. And then you cannot filter sellers' inventories. That's also hugely important when you're trying to find out what else they have to save on shipping, that you can't filter out CDs and cassettes. It's pretty unusable, the app is. The next thing I have written down is sellers unlisting and relisting. That just drives me crazy. Like you're trying to like browse your items I want or whatever tab to like, let's see what's new in terms of things that are on my wish list. And it's just like, oh, here's the 5th time today that this asshole's relisted his shit that I have to scroll all the way through now. It makes it unusable. No enforcement of grading, that's basically the same thing, you know, like again, you can go through PayPal. The best you can do really is feedback. I reported one guy to Discogs one time, nothing happens. Feel like a jerk for reporting somebody. You know, like you're just trying to balance like what's fair, what's, you know, we're all just people here. I'm not trying to get somebody in trouble, but I'm also trying to not get ripped off. No enforcement of grading. Yeah, so as we know now, they've raised their fees to 9%. Used to be 8% on the purchase price only and not on the shipping, and now it's 9% across the board, including shipping. So you used to be able to set a shipping fee that helped cover what Discogs was taking as a fee, but now you can't do that anymore. All you really can do is just raise your price to, you know, because you know Discogs has taken a piece of it, PayPal's taken a piece of it. Like on the one hand, I've personally made quite a bit of money selling records this last year on Discogs, but it's hundreds of dollars that I didn't get that, you know, Discogs and PayPal is getting. I get them getting a cut. They're providing a service. There's a degree to which it's understandable, but you know, it's gotten to be too much, and they're creating a situation where your only choice is to raise the price, which gets to my final point, which the whole thing has just gotten too expensive. You know, when I got back into records in 2017, I was already experiencing sticker shock in 2017 compared to what things were like in the mid 90s to mid aughts. There's going to be a certain amount of inflation. There's that, but things were just, you know, stuff that used to be $5 is now $20. There wasn't that kind of inflation, and now stuff that was $20 5 years ago is $30-$40. Like it's gotten nuts, and you don't need me to tell you that. Everyone knows. But here's just one example. So, you know, I think I mentioned one reason I had been using Discogs is because I live in the middle of nowhere, no access to record stores. Well, we're moving to Minneapolis, and I was just up there yesterday looking for houses, stopped by Electric Fetus, picked up Wire, a Bell as a Cup Until It Is Struck. And I've always imagined that these late 80s, early 90s Wire records are awful, actually. But I'm curious, and it was $10. It's a VG Plus Media VG sleeve, and it's a high VG because it's an otherwise VG Plus that just has a little water damage, taking it down to VG for $10. And I thought, heck, for $10, I'll give it a spin. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. You know, not a lot of risk because that's a reasonable price. And I checked before making this video. The cheapest one in that condition, it's also the cheapest one overall for the 88 US original. Is $30. $30 plus shipping on Discogs is the cheapest one you can get. So when all is said and done, I bet it's more like $40 after shipping and everything. So I'm sorry. Look, every anecdote isn't going to be that. There's going to be other examples where it's not much of a difference, right? And there's going to be some record stores that are more expensive than others. I get all that. But this one just illustrates for me that for the most part, I think you can do a lot better than the prices on Discogs. And if you live in the middle of nowhere like I do now, it's tough, you know. And I'm glad that I got back into records when I did. You know, yeah, I've got a record collection of about 700. Might seem small to people who have thousands and thousands, but I'm glad I got this core record collection of 700 records that I got when things hadn't spiraled totally out of control yet. I got most of those. And now it's just things are out of control. But anyway, I'm looking forward to living in a metropolitan area again with record stores and hoping that that's going to be a better route than Discogs, even though you're just subject to whatever they get in stock rather than being able to just search for exactly what you want on Discogs. But anyway, I just thought I'd share this story in case it's useful to anyone who's gotten into Discogs maybe more recently that hasn't heard this kind of stuff before. If you've had experience with Discogs, this is going to be nothing new to you, but in case this helps anyone, just thought I'd share all that. Okay, thanks a lot. So long.